Hi, I'm Nikki from the Fabulous Life Builder, where we talk about integrated attachment style and personal development. In this video, we are going to go over the common core wounds of a fearful avoidant. Knowing and understanding what your core wounds are very important because you can't work on healing any of them if you are not consciously aware of them. And the big core wounds can be very big drivers subconsciously for how you react to the world around you and can greatly affect your decision making. Healing the core wounds can actually massively affect all the 7 areas of your life and help you feel more whole and balanced in life. Each attachment style ends up having their own common core wounds, and we will now get into the ones the fearful avoidants commonly have. We will start off with the big major core wounds that they have. This is like the ruler of them all, and that is, I will be betrayed. Fearful avoidants grew up in chaos and most likely still are in a chaotic environment because that is their subconscious zone. That's what's familiar to them. What comes with a chaotic environment is not being able to trust people. So even though a person might seem truthful and safe to them, they are always waiting for that other shoe to drop and for that person to betray them in some way, because they learned that's what everybody does. In their world, they can't trust or rely on anyone because in the end, they will be betrayed. And can you imagine how painful that is, going through that in life, always distrusting and waiting for everybody to betray you? So this core wound has a great effect on all the areas of their lives and how they interact and see the world around them. They are always hypervigilant on people's words and actions, looking for any discrepancies they can find. So fearful avoidants have a very hard time trusting people. It's also common to see I will be abandoned go together with I will be betrayed, such as they're always thinking their partner is going to eventually cheat or leave on the relationship. And when this core wound comes up, most likely it's going to feel like a painful stinging. People can experience the sensations in like their stomach or maybe in their chest or wherever they commonly hold tension and anxiety in their body. And keep in mind, the more physically intense it feels, the stronger the core wound is. It can be paralyzing sometimes, and they feel extreme anger, grief, panic, and pain when their core wound is triggered. I am unsafe often comes up, and I think this works hand in hand with that I will be betrayed. So if you can imagine being someone who's always thinks and fears that everyone around them is going to betray them, then you probably wouldn't feel safe getting close to anyone or opening up to them because you figure they're just going to betray you anyways, and you can't trust them. Having a hard time trusting doesn't exactly give someone a feeling of safety, and they can spend most of their time being hypervigilant and in fight or flight mode and never fully be able to let their guard down. A lot of times they are in some sort of protective mode because of the I am unsafe wound. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that with this, there is many fearful avoidants don't seem to consciously be aware of the I am safe wound. And it can show up for many different reasons too, other than what I've just stated. If you are a fearful avoidant and notice an overreaction to have to defend yourself in situations, or the reaction seems disproportionate from the situation, then it might be an indication you have this unsafe wound. I am bad is the next core wound. This can also come up as I am defective. This is how fearful avoidants rationalize why they keep getting betrayed all the time and can't trust people. If everyone betrays them and leaves, then it must be because they are a bad person in some way. Going back to when fearful avoidants were growing up, they didn't get that consistency and safety from their caregivers. So while it wasn't their fault that this happened, they didn't know how to register that and made it mean that they were indeed at fault. An example might be a person who has a parent that was an alcoholic or addicted to drugs. And the parent would often lash out at the child and be unpredictable in moods and behaviors. The child doesn't understand yet that it's the pain and the addiction of the parent themselves that is making them act this way. And instead, the child comes up with the reason that they are at fault for the outbursts. And this carries on into adulthood. And fearful avoidants many times have a hard time maintaining a stable relationship, and they can often find themselves in a volatile and abusive relationship, and they come and believe that it's because they are bad people or something is wrong with them, but they don't know exactly what is wrong with them. Also, what comes up is feeling like they have to be perfect and not make a mistake. And if they do, they can be really hard on themselves and make it mean that they are bad, because not being perfect can cause an outburst from their caregiver or somebody else they care about, which won't make them feel safe. So in order to have some sort of safety and harmony with people around them, they feel pressured to always be good or perfect. And if they fail at it, then it makes them a bad person. I am unworthy also comes up as a core wound for the fearful avoidant. When they believe that they're going to be betrayed and always have to show up perfectly, or that if they don't show perfectly, it makes them a bad person, the feeling of unworthiness comes up. They often feel like they have to prove their worth, so the people around will want to stay in their lives and treat them good. And if people do leave and betray them or lash out at them, then it must be because they are not worthy of someone sticking around, or they did something bad that made them unworthy. I am weak if I open up, or if I'm too emotional, or I make myself too available to others come up as a core wound. Fearful avoidants are known to have outbursts after they are pushed too far and repress their feelings for too long. Usually, they will people please and repress because of the I am bad wound, but they will finally hit a tipping point where they will finally let out how they feel, but it's more in a volatile way, usually an emotional outburst. The emotional outburst can lead them back to the I am bad, maybe shameful that they did that, and that they're weak because they didn't control themselves emotionally and handle the situation well. Another way it shows up is since they believe that eventually they are going to be betrayed by others and you can't fully trust people, if you open up emotionally and are always there for people, then the betrayal is that much worse. It's almost like fuel for the betrayal. So let's say someone actually fell for this guy and the person actually opens up and shows their emotions about how they feel about this guy, and is always doing stuff for them and makes time out of their day for them, and maybe always comes running whenever asked, and then the guy betrays them. They just leave. That person now feels weak because they let their guard down, and they should have known better that the guy was going to do that in the first place. They might also think they're weak if they are too emotional because they feel like they should have kept their cool and controlled their emotional outbursts and their feelings. I am trapped, powerless, helpless, or often out of control. Core wounds can show up together for a fearful avoidant. They can often get frustrated and feel stuck in life or the situation they are in, and they don't really know how to fix it and don't feel they have control over what's going on. Some other ones that show up not as painfully as the major ones, for fearful avoidance can have our I will be disrespected, I am unloved, I am not good enough. As a fearful avoidant, of course, other ones can show up as well that I haven't listed, but there are more surface level usually and don't cause as much stinging and distress as the top ones do. Of course, by the way, you can heal these wounds. And if you can heal some of the bigger triggers, you will find that other core wounds kind of heal themselves and go away. It's sort of like a Jenga tower. If you can heal, as a fearful avoidant, say, the big I will be betrayed wound, then you will probably find that you feel more safer around people, you can trust more, you might start to feel more worthy or have less of the I am bad core wound. So when you pull the right Jenga block from the tower of the core wounds, the rest eventually come tumbling down. Sometimes the bigger ones that cause the most stinging can be the hardest to heal and probably take the longest. So you can always start with the lesser, lower ones first and work your way to the top if you are really struggling with healing. And remember, as fearful avoidance, you can definitely have other core wounds not listed here, as fearful avoidance have behaviors and traits from both the dismissive and the anxious side, but these are the core wounds that generally are specific to the fearful avoidance overall. These are just the patterns that come up. Fearful avoidance can lean more on the anxious side or more of the dismissive side, and that can affect what core wounds they end up having. So if they lean more towards the anxious side, they can have more core wounds that anxiously attached people have. And again, I want to stress, you don't have to live with these forever. Yes, you can heal these. If they have been programmed into you, they can sure be programmed out for sure, but it does take time and effort. If you would like to know how or have help healing these core wounds, you are more than welcome to message me over at Instagram at The Fabulous Life Builder. And I promise you, healing your core wounds will make a drastic change in your life. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to learn more. If you have any questions about the topic or have any comments, please feel free to comment below. If you are finding that you have or are struggling with these core wounds, I want you to remember that how you got these core wounds was not your fault. But you are indeed responsible for dealing with the core wounds and doing the work to heal them, which, by the way, is well worth it.